Hello and welcome to all of my combo lords. Welcome back to our continued combo class clock costume challenge uh, commencement celebration chat chill. Seeing how many C's I could fit in there. Sometimes alliteration can be fun, although it doesn't work as well as in translation. When I was thinking about it in the other stream, I do like the similarity I drew in my head between alliteration to a given language and the base dependent tricks that you can play in base 10 of math to fiddle around with numbers, where in each of those cases they're a little more limited than something, say, poetic you could do with language or something base independent you could do with numbers. But they still give us a fun fact, a fun thing to play with, as well as a possible glimpse into deeper patterns, ways that in any given language some words would alliterate, and possibly even ones that started in similar prefixes and work well together. Same with base dependent versus independent traits. I have some of my upcoming topics of episodes to film start off with some base 10 like tricks where you're fiddling around with numbers, digits, but then you see if these rules apply to other bases and whether there's any bigger patterns that could be drawn about in any typical numerical base, tricks we might be able to play with numbers. Hey to the magic fellow. Thanks for popping by and commenting. Good to see you here. And today, like I put in the title, in addition to our typical chatting and ranting about comments, we will also be possibly designing a little bit of a clock costume. Because as I was thinking about, I love Halloween, so I should dress like something for Halloween. I also have at least one Halloween type party I'm going to that my friend did put, which I totally agree with, costumes mandatory. And although I doubt anyone would be truly kicked out for not wearing a costume, putting costumes mandatory, even in a half joking way, may encourage everyone to dress up. So I figured I also wanted to do some sort of Halloween live stream or short video or even a special if I can get that done in time this year, but that might be next year. And the most logical thing for me to dress up as right now is a clock because I have two hands. If we ignore the need for a seconds hand, clocks have two hands, the hour and minute. So I got two hands for those. Can't cover the seconds hand. And so all I really need to do is draw a bunch of Roman numerals on myself and maybe find a way to make my hands more pointy and clock like. Now, I do have some actual big clock hands over there we'll take a look at. I don't want to necessarily destroy any clocks just to get their hands off. I've already destroyed more clocks than I've accumulated this month. So we've gone downhill a little bit in the clock quest long term goal of getting hundreds of clocks. But in the short term goal, which is the true goal of using clocks to hook people onto mathematical education, that's been successful because most of the clock breakings have been on film. There was one where I just stepped on a clock, and unfortunately, that was just a clock sacrifice. Now, with these broken clocks, they do usually still have parts of them there, but when the glass part's gone and broken, I don't know how they're going to handle the rain and stuff like that. For example, the biggest clock I got right now is this one right here. And this one, well, it turned out one of the first times I set it on the desk when the desk was like this and it rolled down, it did this perfect like piggy bank slide off the wall, tuck into behind the whiteboard. So that's in one of my short videos. I forget which one, where this just goes like zoop, right behind in this perfect way. And then later I was like, okay, this is a good clock to mess around with because if I accidentally let go of it on the desk because it's heavy or I drop it or knock it over, it may do a cool safe roll. Well, the next time that it slipped out of my hands on the desk, the glass part shattered. And that's in the episode you guys will see on Friday about some modular multiplication magic. As we know, clocks have a rotaty, restarty way they deal with numbers where they go around the bend and 13 becomes 1. 25 is also 1. And if you're on a 24-hour clock, those have a loop of 24. And if you're talking minutes or seconds, those have a loop of 60. So those are a few of the multiplication charts we will look at to decode some fun patterns. Because once I delve into mathematical topics that maybe some of the math topics, I take out the most entertaining parts for you guys. But there's a lot of other math that I'll try and just tuck into streams and stuff that I've discovered that may not be as captivating to a random viewer just to read like every single modular multiplication chart. So the ones that I picked out are in particular ones I was able to turn into a fun fact about clocks or about weekdays if we look at the mod 7 chart. And then, of course, we had to look at a little mod 2 for evens and odds, a little bit of mod 3 for three evens and throds, and a little bit of mod 6 for the combo of those. Um, Mod 6, we'll see more reasons, is really beautiful and elegant. And I didn't even get into how good fractions would work in something like base 6, but modular arithmetic is very similar to the last digit a number would have in a given base. So in mod 6, we're kind of looking at the last digit numbers could have in base 6. And I've grown to think base 6 is the best, although I will certainly accept 12. So this is an example of one of the clocks that has taken some hits for the team, taken a bit of a toll on itself for the sake of education. And since it won't last the rain, I'll probably put it in my room. But I was almost thinking of if this fully breaks, turning this into the part of the clock costume. But I'll probably make a more elaborate clock costume like that a future year. If I actually go to a Halloween party, I don't really want a really bulky costume that's going to make it hard to sit down or anything. So, what we're going to start with to see if it looks acceptable is if I wear a black long sleeved shirt under, and that will be on my arms. And then I wear a white shorter sleeve shirt over it. I might even cut off the sleeves. I probably should. And then my arms look more like clock arms. And then I need to draw some probably Roman numeral because those look kind of clock like things in a circle on this so that my arms can point as the clock arms. Um, so I'll have to make sure to do right times. I hope people call me out if I do something like having the hour hand, whichever one I decide, straight on an hour and having this one somewhere else, because there's a lot of impossible times. You know, the amount of times where the minute hand and hour hand could be in like a flipped version of each other. Um, Meaning the places where if I was given my hands like this, um there's two ways, like this could be hour and that's minute and that's hour and that's minute, are limited, and they're interesting. They may show up in a clock video someday. And there's, I forget the exact number, but only a few dozen possible times during the day where the hands are work in a way where both of it could be accurate minute, hour minute, or minute hour. And then even in general, times that are accurate for um like this is given as hour and this is minute and it works just in one way. There's an infinite continuum of them, but there's also a bigger amount of, well, I'm not sure about how we would compare these sizes of infinities. Some sets can be compared as countable or uncountable infinities, but most of the times you would try and pick would be impossible times. I would have to look into the math behind that, but I'm thinking we might even be able to say that the smaller type of mathematical defined infinity versus the larger type of mathematical infinity may be at play there. That's an interesting thing to look into as we go deeper and deeper, because it's one of those things that I think is deep enough to get little tastes of different viewings of before we fully present an episode about it, which is the topic of what are the different infinities mathematicians often talk about. And the most classic example that I'll just briefly discuss here that came up briefly in my fractions episode is that although it seems like there are so many more fractions than whole numbers, there's a way of pairing them up in a one-to-one correlation where if you look at an infinitely large set of numbers, you could say there's the same amount of infinity of fractions and numbers. but you can't say that about all of the real numbers, including things like pi and other non algebraic transcendentals or the algebraic ones that need square roots. Numbers that aren't able to be made as a fraction, irrational ones, far outnumber the normals in an infinite way, where if you threw an infinitely tiny dart at a number line, you're gonna get an irrational number. So what's interesting is that certain things in game theory or like in clocks that I was talking about, in other types of life, can be considered to line up with one of these two types of infinity sometimes. And they're important enough they get the nickname countable infinity and uncountable infinity, but they also have some symbols. Technically, it would be the smallest uncountable infinity of many. And there's also some big questions about it, such as one known as the continuum hypothesis, where they're not exactly sure if the smallest infinity that we know, if the one that's the next bigger infinity that you could logically talk about is another one we're talking about, or if there's any in between infinities. And that's a really weird one because certain aspects of math can be proven to be independent of it, meaning that whether or not you accept um, that there's something in between or not, that all of the rules that you set up for your arithmetic could hold either way. And then it makes it sort of a weirder choice until we possibly find a weird loophole around that. I'm optimistic we could find more logical reasons why one makes more sense than the other, but it's a very confusing, interesting one, the continuum hypothesis. Now, continuums are like, those, if we're looking at like the clock moving, there's a whole continuum of times. And calculus is about that, but other things that aren't as mathy that are secretly in our life are about that too. Like different dimensions are sort of like that. Like we're on a continuum of moments stringing along 3D universe scenes in a continuum, and you could kind of try and see each 3D moment as a continuum of 2D flat things, and each of those is a continuum of 1D lines, and each of those is a continuum of points, each of which is in other more philosophical than mathematical ways what I'm referring to right here. Dimensions are sort of the next infinity from each other in a different way, where you are like, when talking about one dimension, if I'm talking about an area, then I have like a finite amount of area, which we could even just call X or one or something. For it's one for some size on there. And then there's like distance, where it's kind of all of the distances added up, all the little lines that are, or all the points in it, are, there's infinitely many of them, and each one's infinitely small. And then what if we're talking about volume? Well, this is too infinitely small to be part of the volume unless I make a whole continuum of infinite of them. So cross sections of dimensions are cool to think about, and they kind of reveal how in other ways of analyzing infinities, you could think of dimensions as representing sort of what, this is a personal philosophy more, is in a given dimension you can call its quantity one, and under any lower dimensions are sort of like zeros or infinitesimally small numbers, and other things a dimension higher are sort of like infinite, or so large they're like infinite numbers. um so very interesting to think about. We might get into that more a little bit 2 episodes from now, because after our modular multiplication magic, we're looking at a strange dice related sequence. And although we don't go fully into the fourth dice mention yet, that'll be a future one. We do hint a little bit at the fourth dice mention. Now, peeking here, someone's saying a sort of clock superhero. That could be a good part of the costume, or perhaps you're just referring to me becoming a clock supervillain. Don't worry, if I ever gain secret clock powers, I will use them for good. Now, I will use them in ways for, occasionally there will be chaos for the greater good. So when I use my powers for good, it doesn't mean nothing's going to break and nothing's going to burn, but it does mean that in the long run, there will be teaching, laughter, and peace and love. And so, yeah, I'll use my powers for good. I won't. There might be a little supervillain arc as a little like I need to cause a little ruckus in this world, but you'll realize that I was never a supervillain all along. Now, I have joked before about I could have some supervillain like clock heists, but I shouldn't say any of my ideas in case I implicate myself in any future court cases. But that's pretty much the only supervillainy thing I can imagine myself pulling in 2023 would be some sort of clock heist. Of course, if this does come up in a court case, it's obvious that that's just a joke, and that if a clock heist occurs, I'm just being blamed for it due to all my clocks, and I'm one who makes deadpan jokes, and I couldn't possibly be the one involved in any 2023 clock heists. So, let's see. Someone's saying there's basically the odds are zero that my arms will be at the correct angles. That's true, and it's probably also true about a lot of the stop clocks that got bumped because, or even the clocks in general. I doubt that any clock is ever truly at the accurate, correct calibration to have them at the right bits. So, I would say all clocks are imprecise in that way. That's something we have to accept. But as far as at least one hand being correct, moving clocks fail even that, and mine get at least one hand right a bunch. So now someone's saying that physical dimensions, as far as they know, aren't infinitely divisible due to things like the Planck length. And I am talking more hypothetically about dimensions, how they could work in a mathematical or philosophical or potential sense. But I also do think that I'm a bit agnostic about us ever knowing we found the smallest unit. You can't divide that unit. I don't know if we've necessarily proven that concrete enough for me to be firm knowing that we can't go smaller than a Planck length. Although, there are quite possibly most physical phenomena can exist smaller than that, but I don't know. So we'll see. Um, Now, someone's saying the only clock's correct is what we base the time off, but I'm thinking that the if it's a analog clock like this with the hands, then it's always not even going to be calibrated where they're at the right amount. And then if you're talking about like a digital one that you base them all off, you could theoretically say that if we are basing all our clocks and trusting that since we're basing it off that, we're counting that as the OG clock, then that default clock, you could say up to one clock is correct given which clock you assign that to. Um, Now, there is one type of clock that is correct, though: sundials. Now, they don't tell you a precise time necessarily, so you don't want to trust exactly the numbers it points at. But as far as it is pointing that direction, sundials are pretty accurate. Now, there's actually a pretty cool sundial not too far from here. In the marina, there's a spot I haven't been able to hike to yet due to my leg recovery from the surgeries I got this year. But once I'm just a little more recovered, I'll take you guys on a walk to visit the sundial in some clock episode. It's a great little place you can hike out to at the marina. A lot of people like walk their dogs and stuff there, so you'll bump into some strangers and you'll get to see the sundial. One time, even me and my friends threw a pretty chaotic party at like 2 a.m. there because it's in the middle of the marina where you can't hear really loud music from there unless you're at the marina because it's like so far from any houses or businesses. And so, yep, we threw a pretty loud, blaring music wild party at like 2 a.m. there because like we weren't bothering anyone. It was so far out there. Of course, at that time, the sundial wasn't helping. But, if we had only stayed an hour or two longer, the sundial probably would have kicked in. So here's an underclock shirt. Here's an overclock shirt. And our overclock shirt is going to need the Roman numerals. Now, I need to think about if I want to draw a circle, because a circle is good, but that might make it look weird for the hands, because the hands are supposed to be inside the circle. So I'll do a circle last if there's going to be one, and I'm just going to write some Roman numerals. Now, normally, I think that clocks need a 0 on top of them. Much more sensible. That's what 12 means on them. But we've named it after the chunk of the 24 hours that ranges from 1 to almost 13 instead of from 0 to almost 12. Ridiculous. So normally I'm going to edit these clocks someday and replace some of the like integer looking ones with like the Arabic numeral type numbers with zeros on the top instead of 12s. However, there's not a Roman numeral for 0, so since I'm making all the rest Roman numerals, I'll go with 12 for the costume, grudgingly. Someone's asking if I've seen 3D printed digital sundial clocks. I haven't, but it sounds pretty cool. I haven't messed with any 3D printing yet, but it may be necessary to make my clocks someday. If I could get in touch with somebody who 3D prints clocks and can make them a little different sometimes. I don't want more than like 4 or 5 clocks that look identical. Maybe like a little stretch of a wall can be copy clocks, but then I want them to look different mostly. So if I could find someone who could make like batches of 5 3D printed clocks that don't even have to work, they just need their hands to be maybe movable, but even or not even. Yeah, the hands have to move, but they have to be stopped. So they don't have to have a motor. So 3D printed clocks could come in handy for getting closer to my clock quest goal. Now, also sundials. I'm going to count a few sundials as clocks if I get a couple sundials back here. But clock to me does have a certain imagery. So I'm only counting so many sundials, only counting so many watches. I want some legit clocks. Now, really, I need a grandfather clock, but those are harder to come by because a real working grandfather clock costs hundreds of dollars. I've looked online. I don't have the money for that yet, but I need to find someone who has a broken grandfather clock. That works for me. All right. And a hello to everyone who's saying hi in the chat. So let's draw 12 on here and hope this Sharpie works. We already got a lot of dirt on this shirt. I'm going to have to probably wash this shirt before I go to any parties with it. But I will hopefully this Sharpie will withstand any washing. So we got XII. Now I'm going to write all the Roman numerals upward because when you try and rotate them around the wheel, they start looking weird. And a lot of these clocks compensate for it in a really weird way. Some of the Roman numeral ones flip it and then like reverse and flip and stuff. Because if you're rotating around the wheel, it's hard to make 9 and 11 look different and like 4 and 6 look different. So I'm just going with upright numbers. Now, should I put like the bar over them? I guess I'll put the bar over them. That makes it pretty recognizable. I feel like Roman numerals are mostly in clocks and in music and in one or two other aspects. Now, I don't know if you guys know why Roman numerals are often used in music. I haven't done as many music tutorials, but a real quick reason for that is that sometimes you add numbers after what's called a chord. A chord is like a combo of notes, and you add sometimes an extra thing to the combo. And so you'll have like the normal name for the chord, and then you want to say 7 that we're throwing in a type of seventh note or something like that. And so you often put that on like saying, I'm going to the 5 chord, meaning I'm going to the 5th chord of the original key of the song, but I'm making it a 7. I'm doing an altered form of that chord. And so you want to call that like a 5-7 chord and not have it look like a 57. So they'll often write stuff like that as a V, and then they can for the 5, and then they can throw on a 7 if they want. And so you'll see Roman numerals often in music refer to like which chord am I going to in context of the song. And there's other places they are still used in life because it might be useful sometimes in other cases to have a second way of writing numbers just to distinguish them from the first. Like how if you need to list things, sometimes you're like 2A. Having the letters to go down is useful. Having another type of number to go down is useful too, just like visually or whatever. Yeah, Magic Fellows mentioning there's a Discord and subreddit as well. If anyone wants to throw the Discord link in here too, just to make sure everyone has it. And the subreddit as well. Looking forward to more and more fun discussions on there because Combo Class here, although it's kind of like a video series about me and my antics and my teaching, I'm also enjoying building a community of people who enjoy learning in a similar way to me, learning with a deep yet silly at the simultaneous time approach, investigating little fun anomalies about math and science that looking for surprises in life essentially and finding surprises in life and people who and who like my style of learning and want to chat about similar things should head over to those places like the Discord mentioned or the subreddit. If anyone doesn't have a link handy to the Discord, I will throw one in the chat in a moment. Um, and remember, I'm not a technology head. I will pop by and do what things on those apps once in a while. I do actually know Reddit decently well, not like posting or moderating on it, but I like going on Reddit. But I don't know anything about Discord, but I'm decided to start learning about it to chat with my combo lords because some people find that an easy, good place to chat. So let me get a link for you guys. Um, Now, also, as we continue to expand, I would like to note that I do own, I haven't posted anything there, so you're not going to find anything there. But I do own comboclass.org. I was unable to get comboclass.com, although I don't think it's being used for anything big. Let me see. Is there any guy at comboclass.com? That one rolls off the tongue nice because you got two comms in there. I do actually have comboclassroom.com. Yeah, there's like nothing at comboclass.com, but someone owns it. So maybe deep in the future I'll buy that as well to link to it. But right now I have comboclassroom.com and comboclass.org because why not have a .org? They don't have any restrictions really on who can be a .org these days, for better or for worse. But I think I fit the bill of what a .org should be anyways. You know, it's if I make money from this stuff, pretty much all of it is going to go back into trying to educate more and more people. So why not call it a .org website? And that's what I got. So at some point I'm going to be posting a lot more writing on there that is me describing more rants and essays about video topics with links to the videos as well. And then hopefully expanding it to have fun games and interfaces and stuff on it. Um, Now, Discord link. Sorry, I was kind of looking for that while I was chatting, and I forget where to find it. Even though I feel like I've done. Here we go. Invite people. Um, Oh, let me do one that doesn't expire here, because this is maybe in the future there will be other discords or private places for the supreme combo assistants, the combo assistants who want to actually help me out in certain ways. But for people who just want to chat, this link will be public, and it is the main home base for any combo chatting for people who like that app. So we've gotten a good 12 here. This is a good start. So let's make a one, and we have to try and make it close to the edge so that my arm isn't too far from it, but not close enough. Do I have scissors here? I need to see if I got scissors around because I need to cut off these sleeves so my arms are going to be looking a little more like clock hands or whatever. You don't really call them clock arms, I guess. Maybe it would make more sense for. We'll see. We'll see what makes sense. Beautiful 12. Thank you. I'm going to go slow and steady on these. I can have the type of handwriting where if I go really slow and steady, it looks nice. And if I go fast, it looks insanely sloppy. So usually get a mix of that in my videos. Now, here's our one. Ones are, I want to say they're a poor design, but I'm going to say that, I mean, not Roman numerals, but ones in general. I don't like having to draw the little hook in the bottom thing. I just want to draw a line for a one. So I want, but then it looks like an uppercase I or a lowercase L. So I want to say that ones have a poor design normally, but one should be the one that gets that. So I'm going to say that I's and L's have a poor design because in English, of course, is what I'm referring to here. Other languages have their own different rules of how shapes or letters work, but in English, the lowercase L and the uppercase I are stealing all this stuff from one. They're forcing one to have a little hook in the thing at the bottom. Why can't one just be a tally? One is a very fundamental number. It's the multiplicative identity element. So we got a one there, and now we're going around to the two. And I have to try and make three kind of like at the midpoint, the right angle to the 12 if we were looking from the middle. So 2 will go around here. Sorry if you can't see any of the drawing, but I will hold it up between numbers. All right. And other topics we might chat about today. One is I mentioned in the Discord, but I'll share with you guys one of the upcoming lunch breaks at some point, although it's not going to be right away, will involve cacti. Because I have the type of cactus in my yard that it's pretty close to the neighbor's house. It's like the part of the yard that we share with the neighbors, and it's like really up in their zone. So I'll feel a little weird filming the cactus plants like right outside their porch, but I'll get an angle where I'm not bugging them. And so the cactus there is the type that makes those prickly pear fruits. And so I don't know if other parts of that cactus are edible because some parts of it are. So I need to look up more about if other parts of this cactus are edible inside it. But at least the fruits are. I've had them in the past. It's those prickly pear things. You gotta beware because spikes on the outside come in two varieties. There's the big, easy to dodge ones that look like big needles, like you expect from a cactus. And I was just touching between those and like got those off and touched the other parts. The other parts has these micro spines, these tiny little splinter like evil things. I guess not evil because when I showed it to my friend who's in a botany, I was like, I hate those things. And he's like, I love those that you knew the name for the little micro spines. He's like, I love those things. The cactus is protecting itself in a really unique way. And I'm like, all right, fine. The cactus has the right to have those little micro needles, but I still bother me. But I thought like the fruit of a plant is supposed to be the part that the plant wants to disperse the seeds from. Maybe they only want birds to eat it and not humans to eat it first, so the birds disperse the seeds further or something. Someone's saying if you square any clock number, it always ends up at 1469 or something. They don't know. I feel like you probably learned that from one of my videos because, so yes, I do know that because that's a trick that I mentioned in a video without having read anywhere. So I think it's likely that where you heard that was from one of my things. It's actually 12, 1, 4, or 9. 12 being 0. And that's actually a very big part of the next episode. So, in the next episode that's coming out on Friday, and remember when I say episode, there's probably going to be short videos in between all that stuff. But I mean, like next episode on my main channel, the full ones, the next episode explains that. And it's related to those being things that lie on a certain important diagonal line of these modular charts we're going to look at. Also related to a nickname they have, because they're very important in number theory, numbers like that, known as quadratic residues, mod 12 in this case. So we're going to look at that. And I have an even crazier trick for you guys involving 24-hour clocks and a slight alteration to what you do with the numbers. I actually asked it as a bonus challenge question at the end of the last Clock Quest episode. So you can go there if you want a bonus fun thing to work on. But that will also be explained. So I got 2 clock tricks, including the one you mentioned, as well as a trick about weekdays and just showing some fun stuff about clocks and accidentally breaking the big one and such. Someone's saying I should make the costume fireproof and blowtorch it so it's a melted clock. That would suit my brand pretty good. Now, I'll think about how I could pull that off. This is basically fireproof. I've put out fires with this, and it didn't get any scorches on it. It gets melted clock on it if I put out something like that, but it doesn't get burnt. So because it's a lab coat, so it's like designed to not burn. And so everyone thinks, not everyone, but a lot of people think that I just wear this because it's like a fun gimmick. Like, oh, I'm a math guy and I'm dressing like a weird type of mad scientist. And while I do realize I fit a lot of the mad scientist trope characteristics, the lab coat's actually functional. The lab coat is a real lab coat that does protect me from thorns and occasionally fire and stuff. However, this shirt is not fireproof. I could burn this in a bit. Now, I don't know the rules for fire on here. I really don't want to get one of these channels, like getting a strike on it or something. They're entirely for education. I'm not trying to recommend anyone does anything crazy, but I don't know if I'm able to light this on fire during the stream. I'm already gonna need to put a disclaimer in one of the upcoming episodes. Like I put some disclaimers in the descriptions when I burn stuff or break stuff, but I'm gonna need to put one at the beginning of one of the upcoming episodes because a lot of chaos happens in that. So as usual, if anyone from YouTube's watching, remember there's an entirely educational channel, and I'm not recommending anyone copies any of this. I'm not like making challenges or anything. I just sometimes cause a little chaos in a structured way to teach people. So let's get a 3 on here. Remember, like I'm serious too, not just for YouTube, but like don't play with fire. I actually do it in a way that's safer than it looks. So don't play with fire. And watch out if you break any clocks. They have glass. I've been lucky not to have gotten any more than a tiny cut from a clock so far. I want to say no cuts, but I did get a cut or two that I wasn't sure where I got them from after some crazy filming days, and it was either a tree branch or a clock. So this 3 is kind of narrow, but it does the trick. Someone's going to say, am I going to do a 10K Q&A video or stream on the main channel? Now, here's the thing. The main channel is sort of like a whole series of a TV show almost in my mind, or also a whole thing that you could look at as a teacher to show your class and things. So those episodes are a bit more structured than anything on this bonus channel. So it's unlikely that in the near future I'll live stream on the main channel because I like keeping it as its own standalone work of art, or depending how you see it, you can see it as like a learning slash comedy show, a thing to teach students for a teacher, or it's a grade -1 of a weird experience. Um, but I like keeping that channel as its own thing, kind of the main channel. It's my main passion project. And so I'm probably not going to do a live stream on there for the near future. Maybe way in the future when I like have a bunch of friends over and a bunch of crazy stuff planned, I'll try and do a live episode there. But more so what you will probably see there is specials that line up occasionally with holidays and that line up with beginnings or ends of grades, or sometimes maybe halfway points or stuff like that, or specials that line up with a my strange version of like the combo class assembly or the combo class talent show or something like that. And so the main one that you'll see, which is a few months out, but sometime in early next year, I'll be ready to be moving on to grade -2. And I feel like I've accomplished what I need to with grade -1. And at the end of grade -1, I'll probably drop a super long, uh, like special like episode involving more like celebrations, more looks into my real life, more philosophy, more weird footage you've never seen from my past, maybe meeting some of my friends or family. So stuff like that will probably come on the main channel, not until a pretty massive grade -1 finale. However, I love live streaming on this bonus channel, and over time, there will be a time, either in grade -1 or grade -2, when I have a good enough setup to pick a few days that I know I'm going to do a live stream, and they'll be a bit more structured than they are right now. Right now, it's like I'm going to design a costume and rant, but there might be like a topic I want to teach or a philosophical concept I want to present per live stream or something, and do them on different days of the week. Or there might be themes. I might have like Wikipedia or Wikipedia Wednesday or something, where I that will be a day we research things together on Wikipedia, and we might have some day like that for different things. So there will be more consistent types of stream going forward. There will also continue to be short videos. But really, like I've said, my main passion is my long form videos. I'm working on assembling a good team and getting into a good groove of dropping episodes there. But I've managed to right now be on a roll of one per 6 days. So you can expect one 6 days after the last one, almost definitely, which will be this Friday. Um, so someone's saying, is grade 12 physics hard for a math person? If you mean grade 12 in the sense of the last year of what's called high school here in America, like the last year before you go to college, I would say probably not, but there's different types. There are what's called like AP classes or other types of advanced classes. Any class will be hard if you don't put in some focus. Some classes you need to put a very mild amount of focus for what you already know or how you can interact with the subject. I had classes where I could literally skip half of the classes, come in just for the tests and essays and get an A minus. But there are other classes that don't work like that. Also, I'm not like recommending that. It's just true. But there are other classes that don't work like that. There are classes where I had to like study really hard just to get a B plus. So, there are different levels of class and there are different things that suit different brains better or worse. The ones that suited me less were wanting to memorize a bunch of stuff. Memorization's less fun than problem solving and creativity. So I did really well in the classes that I applied focus to. And the ones I applied focus to were typically math or creative writing or like literature analysis or certain types of art. So, but I did pretty good in all my classes, even when I was skipping and stuff. I don't think I ever got less than a B in a class. So, try and work hard, guys. Try and get good grades. I didn't end up choosing to go to any like university colleges, but I got accepted to them, so it's good to know I had the option. So, someone's asking if I know the story The Egg. Yeah, I have read that. It's a really, if you mean like there's a short story related to um, sort of like reincarnation in a certain way, but some people kind of roll their eyes at reincarnation because it can be applied in like a some people over believe in certain aspects of things like that. But if you remain agnostic about what means what in the universe, that story is cool and does I very much relate to the philosophy. One core aspect of it is how it's a thought I had myself, so I really related to the book or the story. Is how if you were to be reborn in the body of someone else, you wouldn't be yourself feeling the things. You would be, that person feeling the things. So it's basically is happening. You are right now reborn in the other person. It's just obviously not you feeling it because we just said you were reborn as the other person. So kind of simultaneously, it taps into an idea of humans have a certain sort of essence inside them, and maybe other animals or plants do too, that if you were reborn as someone else, like if your essence was there instead, it would be there instead, and it is there instead right now. So in a certain way, like reincarnation is happening if you acknowledge other things having a certain form of life that you may have in common, which, like I said, I'm agnostic about. Who knows what means what, but I definitely related to the message in that story. It's something that theoretically could come up in future videos, my own takes on that thought. um, Someone's saying, should they days class in their high school? I don't know what that means. If they're asking if they should skip class, like I said I did, they shouldn't. I managed to get away with that because my high school wasn't that strict when I went there. They like got a lot more strict after I graduated. Maybe they learned what went wrong with me, but no, it went right. I learned everything, but on my own. Usually, you shouldn't. That's not a recommendation. If that's what it meant, if days class meant something else, let me know. Um, I just tell true stories about my life. Remember, I'll tell you guys if what I mean is a recommendation. Otherwise, you can assume I'm just telling you true things about my life or about math or whatever. Um, Someone's asking my least favorite part of math. Um, I kind of love all aspects of math. So there's a certain form of least favorite you have with a topic you don't understand, but that's a form of least favorite, not like you don't respect it or not like you don't think it's interesting, but that it would be least engaging to you. And so there's plenty of topics that are a little out of my reach of trying to describe certain things that would make them less fun for me. So there's almost, that bigger infinity of amount of topics that you're always not going to understand than that you do. And so, that's one sort of least fun, which makes it good to A, focus sometimes on things that you do understand and have fun with those, and B, expand the scope of what you understand. And so, as far as least favorite and as like I find least interesting or um, least useful. To be honest, this is very general, but I am personally way more interested in pure math than applied math, meaning I like playing around with numbers in a more existential or philosophical way than I like worrying about if the numbers could make a moving gear part of something. Um, so, although it would be very fun to incorporate applied mathematicians on my channel as like collaborations to help build and invent things, I would love to make inventions someday with some of my ideas, but that's not the course of what I find interesting studying, is how the numbers might build the thing that makes your phone work. That's less interesting to me than like just proving something about prime numbers that could have endless amounts of practical applications, but could also, when you work with pure math, you often get asked the question, what does this relate to the real world? How does this help? And it's kind of a silly question for two reasons. Because for one, you never know what's going to be useful in the real world in the future. That's like asking, like, oh, you have something that could be practical. Did you instantaneously invent something with it? It's like, obviously not. I just figured out the thing about numbers. Maybe it'll come in handy once we explore other things about it. And so, like, prime numbers have huge applications in cryptography these days. We didn't know that when Euler was studying them back in the days, that they would help make computer passwords secure and stuff. But a lot of number things have deep applications. And then the other silly reason why that is like, what does this have to do with the real world, or what does this help, is that you never notice people asking that for other forms of creative or artistic things. And there's a huge creative and artistic thing going on with numbers as well, where things can be beautiful. And people often ask, what are you going to do with that beautiful number? And they don't ask that about a song you made or something. So people, for some reason, are more judgmental toward numbers. I think it's because math education has the wrong approach than what I choose to take. I think a lot of math education works too far on memorization, as well as making sure that you can generate the number through a formula, than just showing you a wider variety of what the formula means. And as well as just in general, a wider variety of topics instead of going so deep on trying to make sure you know how to use a single formula, and B, the interconnections between those and different lenses to view a single problem, and more creative problem solving. Given a sequence, what does this mean? What could the next term be? Those are great questions to inspire learning a lot more than generate the 20th term of the Fibonacci sequence. Now generate the 27th. Now generate the 54th. Like, at some point, you're just like forcing someone to do memorization that won't be practical. It has stopped expanding their mind with new surprises and knowledge at a certain point, because they're like almost temporarily memorizing it, knowing they're going to forget it. So I find problem solving and, deep thinking and exploring things from different angles is a little underutilized. That's not to say that there are no math teachers who teach like me. There are plenty of great math teachers, and none of mine were terrible. I had some decent math teachers that were pretty good. However, in general, math curriculum isn't how I would do it. So someone's actually asking if I'm more logical or factual. That's kind of a weird way of phrasing it, unless you mean a particular school of thought of something, because those sound to me more on one side, like logical, factual, versus like thinking based on mood or spirituality or intuition. I would say that I'm a mix of a lot of those things. When I was younger, I was very far lost my head in a spiritual way, and then I fell in love with numbers, and I've gone back and forth many times in my life, of times where I felt like really spiritual and connected more to moods and nature and music and stuff, and times where I loved objectivity and being able to prove something concretely or argue it logically with using either the way that you can prove things with propositional logic, justify things with numbers. So I've gone through both phases in my life, and at the moment I'm having a lot of fun with the objective logical side, or factual, which I'm not really sure what you mean if those are the two sides of it on the other side, but I'm more on that side at the moment of what I'm having fun with. But I do want to re-embrace some of my spiritual side as well, because that's come in handy in the past in making me the person I am, who has an appreciation for life and stuff. Someone asked how old was I when I first started having existential thoughts, and that would be very young. I was a very weird kid, so I was a pretty unique thinker. I'll show you more like notebooks I took in the past, because I was always writing in notebooks. Also did a lot of art of creatures I would draw that lived in fictional worlds I invented. So I've always had a lot of weird thoughts. I remember being really young and laying in bed and thinking, one of these thoughts is going to be the last thought before I fall asleep. How's that possible? When I think the last thought, there's going to be one more. Is it or is it not true that one of these thoughts I'm having is going to be the last thought before I fall asleep? And then I wouldn't be able to fall asleep. But I would have thoughts like that and all sorts of things. And Yeah, I was just a weird kid. One thing you may note if you see me interact more with my family or stuff is that I call my parents by their first names, and that's a not a sign of disrespect. Me and my family, I love my family a lot, and B, it's something I've done since I was really like a baby. Basically, I guess I mirrored what they were calling each other or what other people were calling them, and they like tried to introduce mom, dad a little bit, but I just called them by their names, and they kind of just let it stick at some point and rolled with it. So I've always been a little different and weirder of a kid for sure. So I was probably pretty young to answer that question when I first both started having existential thoughts and formulating explanation for things. Someone's going to ask about calculus and vectors, and are those courses hard? They can be. Now, that's one of the things that I think isn't taught in an intuitive enough sense. So, thinking about maybe watch some more videos on calculus online. I haven't made many myself yet, but watch it. Watch maybe the videos from Mathologer about it. It's not too long ago, and maybe even the series about calculus by Three Blue One Brown. And both of those I think have a good take on comparing calculus to relatable things such as position versus velocity versus acceleration versus further levels on a car. And I think that those topics, you want to get a fundamental idea of what is integration and integrals doing and what are derivatives doing. And so you want to try and look at that a bunch of ways before you try and memorize too many equations. And then it'll be a lot easier if you have a few different intuitive senses like geometric, algebraically, and stuff of what it means to go these layers in or out of a derivative or an integral. So I recommend those online resources. And I don't know. I haven't taken a class called exactly calculus and vector, so you'll have to see. Everything depends on who your professor is, or in lower grades, you just call it your teacher. So let's see. Someone's saying that they never did good in math and they regret how they did and they want to learn math, but learning solo is hard. Learning piano and music theory, they said they did. Now, music theory does have a lot of relationships to math. You could even try and use those as your jumping in point. How about this for you? How about how, if you know any music theory, if you take a C note and you raise it 12 half steps, which are the smallest step I can go up on most instruments in this Western music. It's a fret on a guitar. It's the smallest bit on the piano, like counting black keys and white keys, they can go up or down. Well, if you go 12 half steps up or down from a C, you get another C. How does that relate to clocks? Hmm. So, one half step or 13 half steps above a C give you higher or lower pitches of the same letter of note. Clocks are very similar to what 13 and 1 do. So, studying stuff like music theory could be a good jumping off point into math. Math can be applied to any hobby you like and use that to dip your toes in. So if someone likes dice, study probability. If someone likes shapes, study geometry. Someone likes music theory, could have some fun looking at things like modular arithmetic. Um, now, let's see. There are other recommendations I might give, which is just that when trying to study something on your own, have your own notebook be your best friend. And if possible, engage conversations with people where you need to explain a topic you learned, which I do to myself, both with my friends and through getting takes of videos that I discard before getting the take that's correct that I like. Um, and saying things out loud is very helpful to figure out, can I explain this and what degrees can I not explain it? Those are the parts I should look at maybe a little more, the parts I'm not sure how to tell someone else what's going on here. And same with your own notebook. If you don't have a friend around to do that with, then write notes about a topic, write notes about the next and next and next. And eventually you'll have half forgotten the first one. Return to it at some point. See, can I explain this topic? Or should I look back at my notes I took about it 10 days ago? I'll look back at the notes and I'll add a new passage of notes or edit the old ones and upgrade them.
And after enough upgrades of your old notes, you'll find correlations to other patterns. You'll find things like, hey, I just found something and I don't even know which part of my notes to put it in. This is about factorials and digit sums. Do I put it with my factorial notes or my digit sum notes? And then that's great because you've drawn correlations between multiple things, and you'll kind of get a more concrete understanding of what things could you explain to someone else, which are probably the things you really fully understand. Even better if you can explain it in two different ways to someone. Now, let's see. So I guess those are just a few random recommendations. Of course, not everyone likes writing as much as I do or reading, but it is my first recommendation. I have a lot of things I could recommend for how I have learned a lot or how I have gotten a successful so far learning show you my philosophy. Like nature has helped me a lot, but that's a little vague. We'll go more into that over time. But additionally, it's hard not to put the first two recommendations as reading and writing, and maybe holding conversations about the topics. Um, which I actually need to interact with more mathematicians. I need to get myself into some mathematical circles related to UC Berkeley, which isn't far from me. Um, but a lot of my friends love hearing my math stuff, but they're more of other forms of artist or writer or thinker or creator or things. um, so it's very cool also chatting with you guys who I know automatically probably like numbers if you've stuck around on my channel, because I've been having so much fun with numbers this year. I want to give numbers the credit for probably saving my life a few times. I mean, like giving me the strength to come back from times where I was very in low points of my life. Numbers for sure helped get me out of that. And I'll also shout out my cats, helped out a lot too. And yes, for those who don't know, I am up to three cats. Well, I probably have been the whole time you guys have known me, but so I had two cats mostly. They're twin brothers, and Sage is the little silky one who's as soft as a sage bush, and he's royal and smart and sage like and wise. And he's just a perfectly sculpted simulation type cat. Like if you made a cat in The Sims, he would be perfect. Like if you made a perfect cat in The Sims, it would be Sage. And then Dandelion is perfect in his alien other way, where Dandelion is just like, pat my stomach, I'm flopping everywhere, and his fur everywhere, and his weird alien, and just squeaks instead of meows. So those are my magnificent two brothers. Dandy's fluffy, and Dandelion, I call him Dandy sometimes, he's fluffy, and Sage is silky, but they have the same markings, and they're twin brothers. Twin meaning with cats, you can have a different dad in the same litter. Like two dads can be part of what contributed to one pregnancy. And have so I think that could be the case with them because they have some genetics we're told, and they have the same patch of coloration, but their fluffiness is very different. Now there's been clones of the cats in the neighborhood, and I've already somewhat gone into this story, so I'll save it for later. But we ended up adopting one of the clones essentially. So now Sassafras lives here, and he's growing to become quite a sweetheart. He's getting along with the other cats mostly, and they're being very accepting of him. And he's very silly and strange and a little scared, but loves getting pets, and he's learning how good pets are. Sometimes I'll grab him by the scruff of the neck and drag him over and pet him, and they really like that. When you grab cats by the scruff of their neck, if they're like your cat and they really know and trust you, um, then it's something their mom does when they're a baby, is like lift them with the mouth by the little scruff of their neck back there, and that flap of skin is meant to be extra pick upable. So don't like fully lift a cat unless it's a minuscule kitten, but you can like kind of like lift their paws a little bit and like slide them toward you a little bit by the scruff, and they actually like it. They start purring. Well, this isn't like a recommendation to do with someone else's cat necessarily. There's like if you have a cat you have a bond with. um Getting some texts I'll need to check while we're chatting. Um, and yeah, stuff I can deal with later. But while I have my phone out, let's see how the main channel is doing for subscribers. So last stream here just a couple days ago, this channel passed 10,000 and it's already at 11,000. So yeah, now we're also going to look at the main channel because remember that's my passion project. And the main channel with my full episodes is now at 9961. So we are getting super close to 10K. If anyone has any last friends they think need to follow Combo Class who aren't following it yet, this is the time to send any new Combo Lords over there, because we are so close to 10,000 there. And then Combo Class, which I've only been posting videos for since April, and even a little less time on YouTube. We'll have three different platforms essentially that we have, or three different channel things where we have that many digits. We're going to have 11,000 here, 10,000 there, and 32,000 on the TikTok, because people have liked some of the TikTok shorts a lot. But I don't use that app as much. So these days I'm kind of thinking a lot more about the YouTube, and then also posting most of my shorts to TikTok instead of vice versa. Someone's saying they're starting at DVC, transferring from Chabot. You're not far. Cool. Bay Area folk. I've had friends who went to DVC, and I've actually taken classes at some other community colleges in this region, such as Berkeley City College, Laney, and Merritt College. Now, let's see. Can't answer all of the comments right now. Partially because something I can't get to all of them, and partially because some details about life need to stay confidential till grade -2. And someone's asking about tips to get better at math. I kind of just went into that, so you may have to look back in the stream like 10 minutes. I was kind of talking about a couple tips about that. Someone's asking about logic and set theory in particular, though, and I do have recommendations for authors I really like in that field. Uh, Logic is a field that I first fell in love with when I was in about sixth grade, which here is about 10 or 11 years old. And when I was that age, my mom, actually, who's not even like anywhere near as into maths as me, like she's pretty smart with math. She knows more math than the average person, but she's nowhere like addicted to it like I am. She happened to have a book she had gotten in Japan when she lived there shortly before I was born. That's this book called What is the Name of This Book? And it's by this guy Raymond Smulyan. And it had all these weird little logic puzzles near the beginning that she loved, but then it goes kind of deeper and deeper, first into these knight and knave puzzles where things always tell the truth or lie, and you have to decode what that means about them. And it gives you some cool paradoxes and some cool propositional logic in disguise. And then we go onward into that book if you keep reading it, and it gets like pretty deep into trying to explain like Gödel's incompleteness theorem and things like that. And so as a kid, I only like the difficulty of the book kind of goes like, in ways. And then there's some chapters near the end that are more digestible. So I never understood all of it as a kid. It took like years later before I went all the way through and understood it all. But it was like this cool, interesting slope in front of me, a mountain I couldn't quite climb yet as a kid. And me and my friends, a few of them who liked the math with me, would do these logic puzzles. I have some memories of being at one of my friends' cabins, and I'm actually going to be back at that cabin very soon for my first time deep into real nature since I got my surgeries. And I'm going there in a few weeks, and that will be maybe a few days. There's not as many short videos posted then, but there'll be really cool ones posted right after I get back, because I'll film cool stuff in the nature. And so I'm really excited that I'm probably going back there. Could be just a couple weeks if things plan well. Now, at this cabin, I have memories as a kid of me and my friend being in the woods. We didn't have internet or anything back then. I don't think there was internet at the cabin, let alone us having access to it. And we had that book, and we would just do knight and knave puzzles and invent our own and give them to each other and stuff. And so that book gave me so much time and puzzles, and also this weird cliff in front of me. So I'm going to recommend anything by the author Raymond Smulyan, because he's written many books that often have a little like a way that they're telling an analogy about something, like this is birds on an island that copy each other's sounds, or this is knights and knaves who lie or tell the truth. It's often like you go to some weird island that follows some weird rules. But in disguise, these tell you things about math. So Raymond Smulyan is a great guy to look into for logic, and also on the slightly more recreational and a mix of logic and all sorts of other recreational math, got to check out Martin Gardner. He used to have this column in the place called Scientific American, I think it was, where he would write every week or month or whatever a math article that was super epic every time. Introduced to the world a lot of the great paradoxes of the time. He played a similar role to what I'm currently playing because I haven't introduced any of the sequences and stuff I've discovered as much. Most of my things are like my opinion or take or my new way of presenting just something that numbers do that people already know, but you guys don't know, and I have a new way I want to present it. And I do have other sequences that I've invented that I'm working on putting into videos and stuff. And some videos have been stuff I've fully invented. But this guy, Martin Gardner, has a similar role to a lot of my videos where he takes something he found cool about numbers or shapes or math of some sort, logic sometimes, and tries to popularize it in a digestible way and his own spin on compiling what it relates to of other fields and stuff, his own little discoveries to add on to it. And so if you get a compilation of a bunch of his articles, there's a bunch of books that compile his different articles. Get the thickest one you can. All of them are incredibly good. He popularized things like the Monty Hall problem in probability, pentominoes and shape puzzles, and all sorts of other stuff. And so Martin Gardner and Raymond Smulyan are my two recommendations of some fun authors to read in logic. As far as set theory, that's a pretty big field. I would recommend just for fun, if to kind of get a different ideas, is try and look up a list of paradoxes that set theory generates to see limitations and interesting weird things about stuff. Um, so set theory, when you look at certain paradoxes within it, it kind of exposes interesting things about the non-paradoxical parts too. Um, so we need to draw some more numbers on here. I can't stream forever, and I need to draw all my numbers. Um, I do teach lessons later today, Monday through Wednesday. Currently, I still have some private students, and so probably won't have that forever if combo class keeps going well. But right now, I have those 3 days, a little less combo class time. We'll see how it goes if combo class ends up being able to make a bunch of money or something. I haven't made any money from combo class yet. I'm spending my savings in it, knowing that it's going good places. Now, while we're at this four, let's see. What else can you guys look out for in the near future on combo class? Is that the modular multiplication magic episode? You'll see this Friday on the main channel. We'll have a lot of fun clock tricks I mentioned, and that's maybe about a 14 or 15-minute episode or so. And then there is the next one after that I've mentioned is about what's called, well, it's not officially called, but I nickname it the hyperdice sequence. And this mysterious hyperdice sequence has so many cool things to go into. And that's the episode that might need a disclaimer right at the beginning so no one copies any of the crazy stuff I do in the episode to demonstrate things about like the four elements in history and stuff. So that episode's really crazy, and it's also the longest one yet. It's going to be like 23 minutes. It might be a little shorter if I edited it down a little more concise, but I'm seeing it could be like 23 minutes there. We have one almost that long. There was one that was 22 minutes where I introduced all of the mutant variety friends of perfect numbers. And that one, I really liked that episode just because there's like so many fun names of numbers that have their own traits. Like, what are the untouchable numbers? What are the amicable numbers? What are the sociable numbers? What are all these mutant varieties of perfect numbers? So I got my 4. Now we get a 5, and at the bottom we get a 6. Good old 6. 6 and 12 are friends. 6 and 12 have a lot of similar traits in their modular charts. 6 is a little neater than 12, but 12 is pretty awesome too, and they have a lot in common. They're kind of friends. Now, if you do look at fractions in the modular charts, 6 is neater. I've grown to love good old 6. So, I don't know. Was I supposed to put these lines so close to the 5? I guess it looked, that's a 5, right? Hopefully clear that that's a 5. I don't know. Hello from Germany to that commenter. Always interesting to have fans all over the realm. Now, if anyone does ever live, in the Bay Area or close, They can feel free to email me at Combo University if they'd ever want to consider helping out as a classroom assistant on set. I would consider inviting some of you sometime if it was for the purpose of helping me make an episode more wild or interesting. For example, having a classroom assistant to blow bubbles from off screen and toss dice and such could come in handy. I already had to incorporate a friend to play the role of classroom assistant with the Four Elements recreation I mentioned, which involves a lot of dirt, a little fire, and a medium amount of water. So here's our good old six, our VI in Roman numerals. Roman numerals kind of suck. I mean, they have uses, but they are structured so ridiculously. They're designed in a way where you have to keep inventing new letters to make a big enough number. You just like can't have an arbitrarily big number. You'd run out of symbols. Um, so we are halfway. Well, no, we are actually in terms of what I've written, 7/12ths of the way through the clock because I wrote the 12 already. So 7/12ths of the way through the clock. We're gonna try it on probably at the end of the stream, see how it looks. I think so far so good. It's kind of veering a little this way. So let's see. It's one, two, two, two. Yeah. So it's gonna kind of go off this edge more than that edge. Don't have that much room for a whole circle. It'll work. Also, let me know if anyone has any recommendations for other ways I can clockify a costume other than somehow making my hands pointy and having my arms be like a different color than the shirt. What other things do clocks have? My clocks have fire and dice accompanied, but that's not like the typical trope. So here I get my 7. We're going to have to make sure this circle doesn't go too weird of a direction. It's going to be a chaotic clock, but that's okay because when I wear it, everything's going to go sideways and wonky anyway. Um, Now, designing shirts is fun. Me and my friends keep talking about why do we wear clothes that we didn't design? Why isn't all the clothes that we wear in our friend group like always something we made? Because it's fun to design something and then you can wear it for like a really long time before it goes bad. Um, I actually my first video on TikTok that got over 100,000 views. So the first combo class thing that ever got over 100,000 views on something was a short video where it was really random that it did so well. Where I was designing a shirt that says combo, and it wasn't even the second half of the video where I accidentally printed combo upside down, and now I have my upside down combo shirt I wear once in a while, but it was just like a way of doing light on a t-shirt where you put paint that's like light resistant and then you put spots where you don't want it and you like do shade and weird stuff and then you make the shirt look cool. But it wasn't even like a great video. I was just doing it with friends on Easter and when we were like having an egg coloring party, and so we I don't know, that video randomly did really good of people watching me design a shirt. um so at some point I'll probably only wear clothes that me or one of my friends designed because that's more fun. At some point I'll probably also make some sort of combo class merchandise, and there's a chance that it'll look like a clock that has a 0 on the top. It also might be something that contains like pictures of dice that are an intransitive set of dice. That'd be a good shirt because I haven't introduced you all that much to intransitive dice, but they're one of my deeper studies that I'm kind of finding my own new things about that I'm not sure have been discovered. So those topics I always wait long enough to include in a video in the right way. So here we got our 8, and then I got to be careful to not make V with 4 of them do IX. Now, some of the clocks actually make their 4 as 4 I's instead of what the Roman numeral is, which is IV, because they're worried it'll look flipped when you do the weird flipping of them they do to like make it roll around. I'm just going to keep them upright and I'm going to do them how Roman numerals actually are. So, looking pretty Roman here, looking pretty numeral-esque. Let's see how our whole room's going. I mean, like the amount of room we have. Okay, we're getting way more cramped on one side than the other. That's okay. Our V's are looking like big, and that's okay. The V's will be V's. So I get one more that is actually supposed to be the other 90-degree angle, even though it looks a little farther now, which is my IX. There's my 9. All right. Fun fact for anyone watching, sometimes I like to drop a fun fact that I just researched that will show up in a future video. Some of my recent shorts have been about what's called pan-digital numbers that contain every digit. Now, also sometimes I mention that we're looking at the type that only uses them up to once. That was sometimes a type of pan-digital we were looking at. And now a pan-digital number, that meaning it has all the digits in the base, whether we include 0 or not, if we have a number like that doesn't have repeats, only has the digits once, there's a bunch of ways we could assemble them. We talked last time about how there's 9 ways to assemble the digits 1 through 9, and then it would be more than that if you added 0 in there somewhere too. Out of all those ways, none can be prime, because if it's using all the digits up through 9 once, whether or not we use the 0, the digits through 9 add to 45, which is, first off, a 3-even number. 3-even numbers are divisible by their digit sum. Their digit sum is a 3-even. They're not always divisible by their digit sum. But what I mean in this case, not only is it a 3-even, which gives us a clue, but 45 is a multiple of 9. And multiples of 9 have special rules that, if you look at my 9s episode that I dropped, one of the first ones on the main channel, and combine that info with the fact that the first 9 numbers add up to 45, you can justify, which I'll go further into the justification in a full episode, that you can't have any pan-digital primes that only use the numbers once each, because the digit sum already makes it impossible. Sometimes you can look for something that's surprisingly like easy to prove something doesn't exist that you could have otherwise looked through a bunch of, and you could just, instead of looking through them, prove something about it. So I might actually make a whole episode about these pan digital numbers before long, because I'm not going to give you the spoiler that's the main clue about the episode, but pan digital numbers are more important than you think. And I don't mean the ones that just use the digit once each. I just mean a number that contains every digit in it at some point. Someone say I could incorporate a bell to look like an alarm clock. That's good. I should have some bells that jingle, and I should then people will know when I'm entering a room, which is okay. I might even, when I go to some parties, due to my legs still recovering, I sometimes need a cane. I'll see where I'm at then. And usually I use the golf club that I have around here instead of a cane, because I don't know, it's a funny conversation starter to just be limping around on a golf club. Sometimes wearing a lab coat, looking a little mad scientisty. And also that it's I'm a man of peace, but in case there were any insane intruders who tried to threaten the peace, I would have a golf club. I'm joking there. I'm not using it for protection. I am literally a person of peace. I don't endorse or encourage fighting. Once in a while, a verbal argument is necessary, but even that can often be avoided, and definitely don't condone any violence. Combo class will be a place of safety, as long as you watch out for the breaking glass and fire and stuff. There'll be, when I make a combo university that's visitable, which, remember, you won't be able to get a diploma at probably, but you may be able to go to like join cool learning classes or art classes or even therapy or crazy stuff. Type of therapy that where you go to, this is my new type of therapy I'll invent. You're going to go to destroy and rebuild therapy. You bring something that's broken that means a lot to you, you destroy it on film, and then you rebuild it using some of the old parts from it. And it's going to be a therapeutic activity. That'll be one example of the type of classes you'll be able to attend at Combo University, although you will not be able to get a diploma of any sort necessarily. Now, at Combo University, what was I even originally saying? I got sidetracked. I don't know. If I ever have a Combo University, I'll make it really cool. So someone says maybe some swirls. Oh yeah, I was just going to say that since I'm a person of peace, Combo University will be, as long as you know that some rooms have broken glass and stuff, like some rooms you need to wear your own lab coat and safety goggles even to be in the room. as long as you're not in one of those rooms, you can be at the combo school and not worry about being hated or attacked or any violence needing to happen, because we'll be a place of love with a little chaos in designated rooms. So there's my 10. I guess there's only 11 left. We're on the last number. Someone said maybe some swirls would be cool. I need to think about if I'm gonna do like a circle or something first, because like I was thinking, most clocks have a circle that's outside where the hands go, and I can't really do that easily. It wouldn't be that visible if the circle's like on my back or something. Um, so we'll see what it looks like on me first. I'll put it on in a minute. As a warning, the stream, as usual, won't last forever. I'm going to cut it off pretty soon. And everyone, of course, should at that point go make sure to rewatch and comment or watch, if you haven't seen, all of the Rare Main Channel videos in preparation of our Friday new episode. And I also put out a new short this morning, if you haven't seen that, about pan-digital numbers, but not the fact I mentioned, a different fact. Um, Now, let's see how this looks first on me, though, before I end the stream. So I'm going to go off camera a little bit because I'm going to rarely take off the lab coat during one of the videos. Usually I need this for protection, so let's hope there's not any flaming thorns coming in the next minute or two. All right, I'm going to go right to this side right here and see how this new stuff would look on me. Sorry, guys, don't get to see my torso yet. We'll see. All right, there's the lower layer. Um, let's see. Here's my bottom clock, and here's my. So this is what will be under, maybe, and then this will be over. I do need black gloves. That's one more thing. I need pointy silver or black gloves. Uh-oh. Wrong way. Someone says something like the big circular clock. Yeah, that has a ring inside them as well, and some little curvy, like fancy things. I should write something in the middle. Let me think. Maybe I can make it like sound like a clock company, but it's called like Human Clock Conglomerated or something. um, so it definitely needs at least. Okay, no, here's what it needs. I could first I should cut these off at the arms, and then I should draw the arms. Maybe I could draw because this is coming out. If I put a little dot in the center, that's kind of where the arms are, where the clock arms are coming out from. I could go like this to if I need to. Um, yeah, that'll work. I'm a clock. um, so, oh, that little sassafras is coming to visit. The stray cat I mentioned. Come here, Sass. They like investigating the combo class. It's a fun zone for cats. I always clear up the broken glass and stuff before they come, and then they dig around and they're like, "What's this? Dice? What's all this buried stuff?" Sassafras, come here. You guys are going to see a messy part of the combo class too. Do you see a little cat? I'm not positive if he's visible. I can't see the screen. That's a secret corridor. That's a rare. Ooh, that rung a bell on a clock. That secret corridor I've been saving from not putting in many videos yet because it's going to fit really well in a future episode about infinite reciprocal sequences. So I'll do that before long, and then maybe I'll start filming in that corridor where I have like bamboo and stuff. You've kind of seen that corridor if you looked at the episode that had my loquat, or the short that had my loquat tree. So I like how we're getting started on this. I do need to clip off these, and then I'm wondering if I should try and draw a line to my arm, but it's going to be like a crooked line. But I could if I go like this for the times, I could like have a line going here to the center, like a little block of a clock arm. So maybe I'll do that. That'll be phase two. I still have a little time before Halloween. I unfortunately don't think I have scissors right here, so I don't think I'm going to be able to make this a cutoff on screen. Let's see in my desk drawer. Any scissors lurking in here? Nah. I got a candle, I got tape, I got lighters, I got pens, I got a broken watch, I got nails in there, but I don't have scissors. So that's going to have to wait. And in fact, I do think I'm going to cut off the stream because I have to teach before long. So if anyone has any last questions or comments, now's the time. I'll show you guys an upgraded version of this next time we tune in, where either during or before the next stream, this is going to become a cutoff, and I'll see if it looks good to draw lines to the arms or not. And I'll think about what sort of hat or face thing could possibly accompany a clock well. I need like a dome like metal hat, maybe. That would look kind of like the top of an alarm clock you push. What if I wear like a colander on, like not a colander with holes, like the people who worship the spaghetti monster? I mean, like, what if I wear like a metal bowl on my head that's not too uncomfortable? That'll maybe look like the top of an alarm clock. Anyway, these are just ideas for a not supreme clock costume. This is just my beginner attempt, just to have something to wear at some parties and streams. But eventually I'll make a really crazy clock costume one of these years. I'll make a functional clock costume. That's the only time you'll see a working clock in my vicinity will be when I'm the working clock. So instead of bell to my helmet, as long as it doesn't mess up the ears, I'm just imagining like people going bong, like, like in a Looney Tunes when like they have something there and it gets bonked, and then their whole body vibrates. Um, it's getting so Looney Tunesy around parts of this classroom with the broken desk and stuff that I'm assuming all the other cartoon tropes will start happening here too. So I think I am going to tune out now. I got to teach before long. I got to edit, and I got to work on some other rare combo stuff. But I love you all. Thank you to anyone who may be watching here in the past, present, or future. Probably not the past, as we've joked about, but you never know. I'll catch you guys on another stream before long because I have fun doing this. And I love you all. Feel free to tune into that Discord link up there or the subreddit. And I will catch you folks next time.